Welcome to the TV Street Detective Channel. Here we update cases that shock the world. Perhaps the people working at house number 48 Tay Son Street, Hanoi, do not know that on this land, on July 19th, 1999, a brutal murder never seen in history took place. History of fighting crime in Hanoi City. And there has never been a case where the Hanoi police, Nam Dinh, Ha Nam, Tuy Quang, and Ha Tay police previously had to put all their effort into hunting down such criminals, even though it's almost over now. 11 years have passed, but every time I pass Tay Son Street to house 48, like a conditioned reflex, I still turn back to look at that house. A long time has passed, and many owners have changed. The Kim Sinh Gold Shop Massacre in 1999 was one of the most horrifying murders in the history of Vietnamese criminal law, shocking public opinion for a long time. The story begins with Nguyen Minh Chau, a thirsty gambler from Tuy Quang. On the night of July 17, 1999, at a gambling den in Chiem Hoa Town, Tuy Quang Province. He tiredly stood up after scraping up the last coin and staggered home. The gambling den owner ran after him and gave him 10,000 and said, "Here, take this and take a motorbike taxi. Remember that you have to pay me back the money you borrowed from now until the end of the week." He asked again like a sleepwalker, "How much did you borrow from me?" The gambling den owner grinned. "It's not much, more than 20 million. Hearing the number of more than 20 million, he jumped up, because the number was really terrible. When he got home, he couldn't sleep all night because he didn't know where to find that amount of money now. He was born into a poor but large family. There were 9 brothers. He was the 4th and considered the most handsome in the family. And because of his handsomeness, he was entangled in love affairs with many girls in his youth. He got married quite early, at the age of 21, and had 3 children together. His wife was a hard-working and patient person. He had many jobs, from gold mining, labourer, and there was also a time when he traded in gold nuggets. He bought gold nuggets from gold mining furnaces in Tuy Quang and then brought them to Hanoi for gold shops. Trading in gold nuggets was also profitable, but his life was miserable. He spent all his money on gambling. Not only was he famous as a gambler who was always thirsty in Chiem Hoa, he also went to Nam Dinh and Ha Nam to gamble. But not only gambling, he also got involved in drugs, so all the accumulated wealth gradually disappeared. His house was located next to the Low River. Although the land was large and the house was big, it was also very shabby. People said that if he had not been addicted to drugs and gambling, he would have become a famous tycoon in Chiem Hoa Town. In 1999, he was 39 years old, but he had managed to record in his record a criminal record for gambling and a criminal record for drug addiction. Lying down and thinking, not knowing how to make money, he suddenly thought of a family. That was Mr. Pham Kong Sin, owner of Kim Sinh Gold Shop at 48 Tay Son Street, Dong Da District, Hanoi. The reason he remembered Mr. Shin's house was because in the past, during the period of trading in gold nuggets, he had brought gold here to sell many times, and Mr. and Mrs. Sin let him stay overnight at their house. He knew Mr. Shin's house very well. Besides the old couple, there was also a maid named Luc Tink Ngaya from Than Hoa, who came to help by the hour every day. Actually, Miss Ngia was not a maid for Mr. Chin's house, but a maid for Mr. Pham Kong Tan's house, Mr. Sin's son, who lived at number 68 on the same street. Mr. and Mrs. Shin were both over 70 years old, kind and virtuous, loved by the neighbours, but for some reason, out of their 3 children, 2 were mentally ill. One named Tao, the other named Thuc. Tao was severely mentally ill and knew almost nothing, just sitting there smiling foolishly all day, while Thuc was less severely ill. Both of them had to take sleeping pills regularly because without the pills they couldn't sleep. Thinking of Mr. Shin's house, he suddenly had the idea of going there to earn money. And that night, he stayed up almost all night to plan. So the next morning, at 7 a.m., July 18th, he took a bus to Hanoi. Seeing her husband packing his clothes, his wife asked, "Where are you going?" He said briefly, "I'm going to Nam Dinh for something." Knowing her husband's personality, his wife didn't ask any more questions. When he went to Hanoi, he brought a briefcase containing a raincoat, long pants, 3 shirts, and 700,000 VND. Around mid-afternoon, the bus arrived at Kim Ma Station, Hanoi. He got off and hired a motorbike taxi to go to Hom Tu, Duc Vien Market. He went into a shop selling knives, hoes and shovels at kiosk number 15 in Hom Market and bought a sharp knife, a Thai knife for 25,000 VND, and put it in his briefcase. Then he hired a motorbike taxi to go to Ochodua intersection. At the intersection, he got off the bus and slowly walked into a pho restaurant and ordered a bowl of well-done beef pho. After eating, he went to a tea shop opposite Mr. Sin's house. He drank tea and smoked tobacco while waiting for the night to come. At around 8:30 p.m, when he saw that Kim Sin's gold shop had closed, he slowly walked into Mr. Shin's house. Mr. Shin was sitting alone outside the door, so the guy came and greeted him. Recognizing an acquaintance, Mr. Sin asked, "Hey nephew, why haven't you come down for so long?" The guy said, "Yes, I have something to do in Nam Dinh, so I stopped by to visit you two." Mr. Sin enthusiastically invited him into the house. Mr. Shin's wife, named Tik, saw him and also came down to greet him warmly and asked about business. After chatting for a while, Mr. Sin asked, "Hey, where are you going to sleep tonight?" The guy said, "I don't know where to sleep yet, but I'm going back to my hometown tomorrow, so let me sleep here." Mr. Sin nodded. "Okay, then you can sleep with Thuk tonight." At around 9 p.m, Mr. Shin's grandson, Pham Ngok Toan, came to visit. Toan stood next to him. He took out a cigarette and offered it to Toan, but Toan did not smoke, and Toan went out the door and asked, "Who is in the house, sir?" Mr. Shin said, "Oh, he is Uncle Thuk's friend." About at nearly 10 p.m, Luk Tae Kia and Toan left the house. Mr. Shin pulled the iron door and locked it, then went to get sleeping pills for his 2 mentally ill children, Thuk and Tao, to take. He lay down on a small bed in the same room as Thuk and watched TV. After a while, Mr. Shin's wife brought sleeping pills for Thuk and Tao to take. She told him, "Okay, go to bed early so you can come back tomorrow and let Thuk sleep, because he can't sleep with the TV on." Although he was very tired that day, his nerves were as tense as a guitar string. He couldn't sleep even for a minute. He lay down next to Thuk and listened to his every breath, and every 15 minutes he heard the pendulum clock's bells ringing. He counted each bell, and at about 3 a.m. on the 19th, he sat up. The guy sneaked out and saw that everyone in Mr. Shin's house was fast asleep. He gently opened the black briefcase, took out a Thai knife, and then crept to the bed where Mr. Thuk was sleeping. His left hand covered Mr. Thuk's mouth. His right foot pressed on Mr. Thuk's stomach, while his right hand held the knife, and he slashed a very strong line across Mr. Thuk's neck. This vicious slash severed the esophagus, trachea, and left carotid artery. Mr. Thuk struggled to his death. Slamming his foot on the bed, blood spurted from the cut. The guy immediately grabbed the floral blanket next to him and covered his face to absorb the blood. Only 1 minute later, Mr. Thuk stopped moving. Mr. Sin heard the noise of Mr. Thuk slamming his foot on the bed, so he woke up, went to the room, and stood outside the door asking, "What was that banging so hard?" The guy said to him, "Oh, Thuk is sleeping, sir. He's so sleepy, talking nonsense." Mr. Sin looked at the bed, but because the electricity was off and his eyesight was poor, he couldn't see anything. He continued into the third room adjacent to the kitchen and bathroom, to the bed where Mr. Tao was sleeping. He turned on the light and saw Mr. Tao sleeping soundly. He went out. Seeing the light from Mr. Tao's room, the guy was afraid that Mr. Sin would find out, so he waited for him to get close to Mr. Thuk's bed. Then the guy suddenly jumped out, holding a sharp knife in his right hand, and stabbed Mr. Sin once, but missed. Mr. Sin used his hand to grab the knife. His hand held the body and blade of the knife, and struggled with the guy. Mr. Sin cried, "Oh my God, it's killing me," then walked backwards towards the kitchen and bathroom. At this moment, the guy was like a wolf. He rushed forward and pressed his body against Mr. Shin. He stabbed and slashed him repeatedly while he was struggling with Mr. Sin. Mrs. Tick woke up and also rushed in to struggle with him. Due to serious injuries, Mr. Sin collapsed right in front of the kitchen and bathroom door, while Mrs. Tick grabbed the knife from the guy and pulled it out. But because she lost her balance, she fell face down on the door. The guy used his left knee to press on Mrs. Tick's back, used his right hand to take the knife from Mrs. Tick's hand, then stood up with the knife. Then he saw her sitting up. The guy rolled his eyes, used his foot to kick Mrs. Tick's face, making her fall backwards, and just like what he did to Thuck, he killed Mrs. Tick. At this time, when he saw Mrs. Tick lying still, he discovered that his hand was bleeding. It turned out that while struggling with Mrs. Tick, he had grabbed the knife blade, so the part of his left palm between his thumb and index finger was torn. Hearing a loud noise, Mr. Tao woke up and saw the guy stabbing his parents. But because he was seriously mentally ill, he still sat on the bed, muttering, "Stab them to death, stab them to death." He knew that Mr. Tao was harmless, so he did not kill him immediately, but searched for the key. He found 2 keys to the door, one in the drawer of the cabinet placed next to the mahogany bed. He put the key in the pocket of the shorts he was wearing and continued to look for the key to the safe. When he found the keychain of the 2 safes hanging on the hanger in the second room, he went back to Tao's room, but he could not find Tao anywhere. He called Mr. Tao. Hearing the call, Mr. Tao came down from the attic, mumbling, "I just escaped." He pointed at the bodies of Mr. Shin and Mrs. Titch and said to Tao, "You sit here and watch these guys, and I will give you money." Mr. Tao looked at him blankly and nodded. After that, he went out to open the 2 safes in the outer room, but could not open them because both safes had combination locks. He left the key in the left lock and took the iron scissors on the gold-making tool table. He broke open the gold display cabinet on the upper compartment. Then he grabbed all the gold, rings, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and bracelets. Then he continued to search the compartments below the display cabinet of Western gold and pure gold next to the outside door, but found nothing. He searched all the other cabinets. When he saw a small iron box with a lock, he used a hammer and iron scissors to break the iron box to see what was inside. It turned out to be Mrs. Titch's jewelry inside. He took a necklace, a bracelet made of pure gold weighing about 1 tael, a necklace weighing about 2 taels, then earrings, rings, a stone face, and even a Seiko watch. He put all the gold he took in the briefcase he brought with him, and he left the iron box, hammer and scissors in the second room. After robbing the property, he took a sharp knife, the same knife that killed 3 people, to a safe place. Tao was sitting on the bed. Seeing the guy holding the knife, Tao was terrified. Holding his head with both hands, the guy standing behind stabbed him once in the hollow of his right shoulder. Then the guy frantically stabbed him 8 more times in his cheek, ear, nape, and neck. When Tao was stabbed the first time, he raised his head and said, "I'm still looking after you," and then collapsed on the bed and died on the spot. After killing Tao, the guy took the knife and went into the bathroom to wash the blood off the knife and threw the knife into the red plastic bucket in the bathroom. Then he calmly took a shower, washed the black shorts with blood on them, and then put them back on. He brought everything into the room, put on long clothes, picked up his briefcase and went out the door, using the iron door key that he had taken from before and kept in the pocket of the shorts he was wearing. He opened the 2 locks, then went out, used a chain to loop the 2 doors inside and closed the door. Then he walked to the gate of Dongda Hospital at about 5 a.m. Seeing a motorbike taxi driver waiting for a customer in his sleep, he asked him to take him to the southern bus station. On the morning of the 19th, right after finishing the meeting, a police officer received a call from a colleague at the criminal police department, informing him about a serious murder that had occurred at the Kim Sin Gold Shop, number 48 Taesun Street. Immediately after receiving the news, this officer contacted Lieutenant Colonel Goyen Duk Nan, Deputy Director of the City Police, and was asked to go to the scene immediately. When he arrived, he saw that the area around the gold shop had been blocked off, with a large number of police officers surrounding it. The officers of the Criminal Science and Technology Department were conducting an investigation of the scene. Thanks to the intervention of Lieutenant Colonel Nan, he was allowed to go inside and take some photos. The scene inside the house made him shudder. Blood was everywhere. The bodies of Mr. Shin and his wife were lying on the floor. The scene was haunting and painful. Unable to bear it for long, he only took one photo before leaving the scene. All day long, he could not shake the terrifying image of the Kim Sin gold shop from his mind. In the evening, while playing table tennis at the People's Police newspaper, he called Lieutenant Colonel Nan to ask about the investigation. Lieutenant Colonel Nan revealed that they had identified the main suspect but asked him to keep it a secret. He was also advised to meet Du Van Hung, nicknamed Hong Zit, deputy head of the Investigation Police Department at 55 Lee Thuong Kiet headquarters, to find out more information. Hearing a loud noise, Mr. Tao woke up and saw the guy stabbing his parents. But because he was seriously mentally ill, he still sat on the bed, muttering, "Stab them to death, stab them to death." He knew that Mr. Tao was harmless, so he did not kill him immediately, but searched for the key. He found 2 keys to the door, one in the drawer of the cabinet placed next to the mahogany bed. He put the key in the pocket of the shorts he was wearing and continued to look for the key to the safe. When he found the keychain of the 2 safes hanging on the hanger in the second room, he went back to Tao's room, but he could not find Tao anywhere. He called Mr. Tao. Hearing the call, Mr. Tao came down from the attic, mumbling, "I just escaped." He pointed at the bodies of Mr. Shin and Mrs. Titch and said to Tao, "You sit here and watch these guys, and I will give you money." Mr. Tao looked at him blankly and nodded. After that, he went out to open the 2 safes in the outer room, but could not open them because both safes had combination locks. He left the key in the left lock and took the iron scissors on the gold-making tool table. He broke open the gold display cabinet on the upper compartment. Then he grabbed all the gold, rings, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and bracelets. Then he continued to search the compartments below the display cabinet of Western gold and pure gold next to the outside door, but found nothing. He searched all the other cabinets. When he saw a small iron box with a lock, he used a hammer and iron scissors to break the iron box to see what was inside. It turned out to be Mrs. Titch's jewelry inside. He took a necklace, a bracelet made of pure gold weighing about 1 tael, a necklace weighing about 2 taels, then earrings, rings, a stone face, and even a Seiko watch. He put all the gold he took in the briefcase he brought with him, and he left the iron box, hammer and scissors in the second room. After robbing the property, he took a sharp knife, the same knife that killed 3 people, to a safe place. Tao was sitting on the bed. Seeing the guy holding the knife, Tao was terrified. Holding his head with both hands, the guy standing behind stabbed him once in the hollow of his right shoulder. Then the guy frantically stabbed him 8 more times in his cheek, ear, nape, and neck. When Tao was stabbed the first time, he raised his head and said, "I'm still looking after you," and then collapsed on the bed and died on the spot. After killing Tao, the guy took the knife and went into the bathroom to wash the blood off the knife and threw the knife into the red plastic bucket in the bathroom. Then he calmly took a shower, washed the black shorts with blood on them, and then put them back on. He brought everything into the room, put on long clothes, picked up his briefcase and went out the door, using the iron door key that he had taken from before and kept in the pocket of the shorts he was wearing. He opened the 2 locks, then went out, used a chain to loop the 2 doors inside and closed the door. Then he walked to the gate of Dongda Hospital at about 5 a.m. Seeing a motorbike taxi driver waiting for a customer in his sleep, he asked him to take him to the southern bus station. On the morning of the 19th, right after finishing the meeting, a police officer received a call from a colleague at the Criminal Police Department, informing him about a serious murder that had occurred at the Kim Sin Gold Shop, number 48 Taeson Street. Immediately after receiving the news, this officer contacted Lieutenant Colonel Goyen Duk Nan, Deputy Director of the City Police, and was asked to go to the scene immediately. When he arrived, he saw that the area around the gold shop had been blocked off. with a large number of police officers surrounding it. The officers of the Criminal Science and Technology Department were conducting an investigation of the scene. Thanks to the intervention of Lieutenant Colonel Nan, he was allowed to go inside and take some photos. The scene inside the house made him shudder. Blood was everywhere. The bodies of Mr. Shin and his wife were lying on the floor. The scene was haunting and painful. Unable to bear it for long, he only took one photo before leaving the scene. All day long, he could not shake the terrifying image of the Kim Sin gold shop from his mind. In the evening, while playing table tennis at the People's Police newspaper, he called Lieutenant Colonel Nan to ask about the investigation. Lieutenant Colonel Nan revealed that they had identified the main suspect, but asked him to keep it a secret. He was also advised to meet Du Van Hung, nicknamed Hung Zit, deputy head of the Investigation Police Department at 55 Ly Thuong Kiet headquarters, to find out more information. Upon arrival, he met Hung Zit and several other officers preparing to set out to arrest the perpetrator. However, due to a lack of vehicles, he quickly suggested using the newspaper's vehicle as a means of transportation. After reporting and receiving approval from the editor-in-chief, he brought his 1998 Zeiss to assist. At around 8 p.m, the working group set off, consisting of 2 vehicles, his vehicle carrying 7 special police officers and a jeep from the Criminal Police Department. The goal was to move to Tuyang Quang, where they believed the perpetrator was hiding. The weather was hot in July, and the vehicle was crowded, forcing them to open the windows instead of turning on the air conditioner. On the way, the officers discussed the case and the clues they had. They learned that on the morning of the 19th, Mr. Shin's maid discovered the gold shop was unusually closed and called Mr. Shin's son. When they broke the door, they discovered that Mr. Shin and his wife had been brutally murdered. Initial clues pointed to a man named Chow, who had a plough-shaped face and was tall and lanky. Chow had dealt with Mr. Shin many times and may have known Mr. Shin's family. Investigators determined that the perpetrator must be someone familiar and knowledgeable about the victim's family's lifestyle. Upon arriving in Tuyang Quang at midnight, the investigation team contacted Tuyang Quang Provincial Police in advance to arrange coordination. After receiving the information, the criminal police in Tuyang Quang continued to call the Chiem Hoa District Police, where suspect Chow was believed to be residing. The team continued their journey to Chiem Hoa at around 2 a.m. In Chiem Hoa, the district police reported that Chow, also known as Nguyen Van Chow or Nguyen Min Chow, was a drug addict, a gambler, had a criminal history, and had traded in alluvial gold. His house was near the ferry terminal, but had moved to the foot of the hill, about 300 meters from the Chiem Hoa bridgehead. The detectives decided to check Chow's house. They approached the spacious wooden house and knocked on the door for a long time before Chow's wife, Le Tai Din, opened the door. She confirmed that her husband had left home 2 days ago and was carrying a briefcase. Din revealed that Chow had stayed at Mr. Shin's house when he had business in Hanoi, and also often stayed at her aunt's house in Nam Dinh. When she realized the seriousness of the case, she became cautious and limited her information. After exchanging information, the detectives decided to split into 2 groups to continue monitoring Din's family's movements and searching for more evidence. One group stayed in Chiem Hoa, while the other group returned to Tuyang Quang to report and continue to implement the plan to arrest Chow if he appeared. The investigation into the Kim Sin gold shop murder case continues to be tense, when the detectives had to coordinate closely, both ensuring secrecy and urgently tracking down the suspect before he had a chance to escape further. Early in the morning of July 20th, right after the horrific case at the Kim Sin gold shop, the investigation force received information from the detective team in Chiem Hoa that the main suspect, Nguyen Min Chow, might have fled to his aunt's house in Trin Shu Yen village, Vuban district, Nam Dinh province. Lieutenant Colonel Nguyen Duc Nan directed the detective team in Tuyang Quang to continue to stay and investigate on the spot, and at the same time ordered Lieutenant Colonel Nguyen Duc Bin, head of the Hanoi Criminal Police Department, to immediately leave for Nam Dinh to arrest Chow. At 6:30 a.m., Lieutenant Colonel Bin and his teammates set off for Nam Dinh. However, on the way, they encountered an accident that caused traffic congestion for many kilometers. Because they could not move, it took the team more than 3 hours to reach Vuban District Police. When they raided the house of Chow's aunt, Miss Nguyen Thi Thuoc, at around 10 a.m., Chow had left about an hour earlier. After checking around Miss Thuoc's house, the detectives discovered a number of jewelry boxes discarded in the garden. They quickly realized that Chow had arranged to leave as soon as he received the alarm from his wife. The investigation team later discovered that, at dawn, the Tai Din, Chow's wife, had secretly called Miss Thuoc's house from an acquaintance to warn them that the police were coming. Miss Thuoc quickly reported this to Chow, who immediately asked her to call a motorbike taxi to escape immediately. Further investigation showed that after committing the crime on July 19th, Chow hired a motorbike taxi from Mr. Nguyen Yuan Tiep to go to the southern bus station in Hanoi, paid him 10,000 VND, and then took a bus to Nam Dinh. Arriving in Nam Dinh at around 9 a.m., Chow continued to hire a motorbike taxi to return to Miss Thuoc's house in Trin Su Yen village, Vuban district. When he arrived and could not find his aunt, he hired a motorbike taxi to go to Mr. Lee's house, a retired doctor who was running a clinic at home in the next commune. Mr. Lei gave Chow 5 stitches in the palm of his left hand and 2 stitches in his knee, then gave him a tetanus injection. Returning to Mrs. Thuoc's house, Chow lied that he had encountered robbers on the road and was injured in a fight with them. Mrs. Thuoc knew that her nephew was not a good person, but she did not suspect anything. She kept him at home, cooked him a meal, and then he took a long nap. That evening, when Mrs. Thuoc went to the neighbor's house to watch TV, Chow took out the briefcase containing the jewelry to check and sort. He kept the pure 9,999 gold, put it in his pocket for easy storage and consumption, and put the gold and other jewelry in a plastic bag. He threw the plastic boxes containing the jewelry in the backyard and into the pond to erase the traces. Early in the morning of July 20th, after receiving a warning from his wife that the police were coming to find him, Chow quickly hired a motorbike taxi to go to Nam Dinh bus station to escape to Dong Van. After searching Mrs. Thuoc's house and realizing that Chow had fled, the Hanoi police force immediately coordinated with the provinces of Nam Dinh, Ha Nam, Thanh Hoa, and Ha Thai to organize a large-scale manhunt to stop his escape. At this time, the Tuyen Quang Police Investigation Agency faxed all of Chow's fingerprints to Hanoi to verify his background. However, the poor signal transmission made the fax blurry and difficult to clearly identify. The Hanoi Police Investigation Agency decided to send all of Chow's fingerprints and the fingerprints collected from the crime scene at the Kim Sin Gold Shop to the Police Records Department for investigation. At 3 p.m, Colonel Nguyen Man Hoan, Director of the Police Records Department, ordered the records officers to use the computer system to automatically search for fingerprints to verify the suspect's identity. After only 30 minutes, Nguyen Min Chow's profile was confirmed. He was born in 1960, residing in Vinh Loc, Chiem Hoa, Hatuyen Province, Old, and had been arrested in 1990 for gambling. The fingerprints in the profile matched the fingerprints at the scene, identifying Chow as the perpetrator of the gold shop robbery. By the evening of July 20th, Hanoi police mobilized nearly 200 officers, 21 vehicles, and set up checkpoints along the entire route from Nam Dinh to Tuyen Quang. At the checkpoint at kilometer 5 near Tuyen Quang, Major Do Van Hong and traffic police officers checked all passing vehicles, including passenger vans, trucks, container trucks, and vehicles with blue and red license plates. Anyone who looked similar to Chow was asked to check for traces on his left hand because Chow was injured after committing the crime. While the vehicle inspection team in Tuyen Quang, the reconnaissance team led by Captain Tuan, continued to follow Chow's connections in Chiem Hoa, checking for people who had contact with him to get more clues. Despite being tired and stressed, the investigation team continued to search throughout the night, ready to arrest Chow at any opportunity. The hunt for the suspect in the Kim Sin Gold Shop robbery was at its peak. with the determination and tireless efforts of the police force to quickly bring the criminal to light. At night, the detectives took turns resting in harsh conditions, some sleeping temporarily in the car, others lying on mats on the side of the road. As for Major Dovan Hung remained alert and commanded the entire operation. He personally inspected the vehicles at the checkpoint, while using his mobile phone to coordinate the search teams at different locations such as Chiem Hoa, Nam Dinh, Tai Bin, and Phu Tho to verify the suspect Chow's whereabouts. Information about suspicious people continuously poured in from drivers and residents, and the reconnaissance team had to handle each lead as soon as they received it. At one point, a bus driver reported that a person with a bandaged arm got off the bus about 30 kilometers away. The search team immediately went to the reported location and conducted an inspection, but eventually discovered that this person was just a middle-aged man with a broken arm on his way home after getting a cast at the hospital. In just the afternoon of July 20th to the early morning of July 21st, the checkpoint team checked a total of 152 passing vehicles, but still could not find Chow's whereabouts. Despite being tired, all the passengers and drivers did not complain, and even volunteered to open the trunk to assist in the inspection, because they understood that the police were searching for an especially dangerous criminal. On the morning of July 21st, the reconnaissance team in Chiem Hoa reported important information. Chow had been arrested in Doi Tien district, Hanam province for gambling, and had a close relationship with a friend named Nguyen Sok Wan. Major Dovan Hung immediately led a reconnaissance team to Nha Hang, 108 kilometers from Tuyang Quang, to check the locations where Chow might appear. They searched for clues from casinos in Nha Hang and learned that Chow had made an appointment to return here to gamble every Wednesday. This reinforced the assumption that his motives might be related to financial issues, and that he would likely choose the waterway to return to Nha Hang, since Chow was a skilled riverman after many years of running a gold mine on the Low River. Immediately, the waterway traffic police units of Hanoi, Hatay, Phu Tho, Viet Tre, and Tuyang Quang police were mobilized to spread nets on important waterways. Major Hung felt that the direction to Doi Tien could soon find Chow, and he advised some scouts to return to Hanoi to coordinate with the search team there. After the commander reallocated the forces, he continued to command the blocking team and continuously received calls for instructions. On the morning of July 22nd, the scout team in Doi Tien received information that Chow was at the house of Oan, his close friend. Lieutenant Colonel Nguyen Duc Bin commanded the team to go to Oan's house and discovered a familiar black briefcase of Chow. However, Oan, a cunning scoundrel, demanded money before she would confess. Because the ultimate goal was to capture Chow, Lieutenant Colonel Bin withdrew money and gave Oan 500,000 VND to get information. Oan revealed that Chow was hiding around the area, frequently changing his residence, and also had a relationship with a woman named Nguyen Thi Xuan. According to Oan's statement, Chow was still hiding most of the stolen gold. He wrapped the Western gold in a towel and threw it into the pond, while the Vietnamese gold was hidden carefully in a pile of straw. During the day, he gambled with On, and at night he went to Xuan's house, a prostitute in the area. On the evening of July 22nd, after finishing eating at On's house, Chow went to Xuan's house. While waiting to enter the house, he was taken away by two other young men. Angry, he went out to the field and waited. Here, a group of disguised scouts who were following him from afar recognized him by his identifying features and immediately approached. One scout shone a flashlight on his face, accurately identified him, and quickly subdued him. At exactly 8:20 p.m., Chow was arrested without having time to react. Even when he was brought back, Chow still maintained a frighteningly calm expression. On the way back, he joked with the detectives and showed no fear or remorse. Sitting in front of the officers, he calmly signed the confession, smiling as he signed the seal of the evidence. Only when a detective said that they had just stopped by his house in Chiem Hoa, Chow was a little confused and asked quietly, "Does anyone in my family know? Do my children know?" But then just a few minutes later, he appeared indifferent again, even telling the officers that my crime deserves to be shot. and asked to be executed in his hometown so that he could see his hometown river one last time. After completing the investigation, Chow was brought to trial and sentenced to death for murder and robbery. On March 20th, 2001, Chow was executed at the firing squad. In his final moments, he appeared incredibly calm, only saying, "My crime deserves to be killed." With the harsh sentence, the shocking case at Kim Sin Gold Shop was closed, bringing justice to the victims and emphasizing the determination and dedication of the police force in this arduous and tense pursuit. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button to get the latest videos, like and share with more people. Comment your thoughts, comments or suggestions to help us improve. Make sure to like, share and subscribe to our channel to explore shocking true crime stories, unsolved mysteries and secrets yet to be uncovered. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. Your support means everything to us and helps us continue bringing exciting, high-quality content. Thank you for joining us on this journey.